Hello, I'm going to be going over APUSH, Chapter 7, The Road to Revolution. It starts off on the section labeled The Deep Roots of Revolution. That's where I'm going to start. I'm going to be doing more of a review with questions and stuff, not really much of a just reciting. So, some questions that I used to study for my Chapter 7 test are: did the colonists want to separate from England? This is not true. The colonists at first did not want to separate from England. They just wanted to have Englishmen's rights. Now, what two ideas took root from the colonies? Although they were not in the colonies, it was the Whigs and the republicanism. Now, these two things happened in Parliament in England, not in the colonies. The Whigs, they were trying to get the colonists to separate from England. They did not want Britain to win. And the republicanism, it was about all the colonies working together and being selfless and not thinking about oneself, but giving to aid the entire colony. What did the Whigs use to attack the king? Well, the king was trying to win, as that's pretty much obvious, but the Whigs didn't want him to win. So they tried to bribe him, and they used patronage. And it worked, but it didn't work because the king wasn't really the only one who wanted to win. It was really Parliament making all the rules and all of that. Now, the Whigs came up with this theory called corruption, and they sent it over to the colonial area, and they had this thing where if they were to lose to the Britain forces, they would become corrupt and they would have moral failures in society. Now, what weakened the authority of Britain over the colonies was distance. And just like it says in the book, it says that distance weakens the authority of the king over the colonies, and even greater distance weakens it even more. So that was very important to the successful victories for the colonies. Now, who said the revolution was effected before the war commenced? The revolution was in the minds and hearts of the people. This is the very first thing that you see. It's actually right underneath the chapter. John Adams says this. I know my teacher uses those quotes as bonuses, so it's important that you should look at it and get to know it, because maybe it's a bonus or even a question on the test. What was the only colony that did not go and be just sent to its own devices? That was Georgia. Georgia was the only colony that was formally planted and planned out and actually put in there for a purpose. Now, what is mercantilism? Mercantilism is the idea that colonies were to benefit England. They weren't there just to be there. They were there to help England and just give them money and stuff. And it also meant that they would try to rule over this with a whole bunch of laws and all of that. How did England look at the colonies? Well, England looked at the colonies as tenants. They used them like as just little, they're giving us money, they're not important, stuff like that. Right now I am under the section Mercantilism and Colonial Grievances. From this idea of mercantilism came the navigation laws. and they were there to make sure that Britain got all the trading. Like, no trading was to be done with anybody except for Britain. This wasn't too good for the colonies, since they were only allowed to trade with Britain. They were bringing in stuff from Britain and sending less out. So they didn't have a lot of money. And as a result of that, they created some paper money that was really worthless. It was about the size of an index card. It was pointless. The British Crown held the right to nullify. What does that mean? It means that the British Crown could disregard any law that the colonies came up with. They could just say, no, you can't do that, and it doesn't matter, even if they had that law for years. Now, this was trying, especially because they could only trade with England, and they weren't making that much money, so some people decided to start a business of smuggling. And John Hancock was someone who made fortunes doing this. Now, there's a quote in the book that is on the next page underneath merits and the menace of mercantilism. It is, we have an old mother that's peevish, is grown. She snubs us like children that scarce walk alone. She forgets we're grown up and we have a sense of our own. Now, this quote is said by someone very important in American history, and his name is Benjamin Franklin. Now, he says this because he says that England is treating them like a little kid, and that they need to grow up, that they're grown up, and that they need to relax. They know what they're doing. Why did Theodore Roosevelt, someone who is way after the revolution, why does Theodore Roosevelt say that the revolution broke out? He says that the revolution broke out because of England's lack of being able to see a new nation. They weren't able to see that America was becoming America. And this was said years after, so it's not very important, but it could be a bonus or something. Going back to what's going on with the navigation laws and all that, someone was sent to the colonies to enforce these laws. His name was George Grenville. George Grenville was sent over there, and he started telling the British Navy that they needed to enforce these laws because we were smuggling and making riches off of other countries and other colonies, although we weren't supposed to. Now, he was the one that really made this a big deal, and he's also the one that got Parliament to create the Sugar Act. Now, the Sugar Act was the first law passed by Parliament that put a tax on the colonies. It raised the tax prices on sugar and molasses and all of that. Now, sugar was really important to the colonies. It was one of the key ingredients for beer, and the colonies were actually making tons of money on beer. So it was really important, and they didn't like it. Why would they want to pay more money for sugar when they could get it so much cheaper from the West Indies? Now, what made Parliament take it off? Now, the colonists started protesting this. They would stop buying sugar. They wouldn't buy it, and the merchants really didn't like this. This was hurting their pockets and their business, and they were pretty much going to go bankrupt, if anything. So they started boycotting it, and the merchants complained, and they took it off. But as a result of taking that off, they put in another act, and it was the Quartering Act. This made all British troops be allowed to stay in any of the colonist lodges or hotels, whatever was around at that time. It also said that the colonists were responsible for feeding and taking care of the British soldiers, which was not very kind. Remember, they do not like the British. They want to win. They don't want to help them. So that was something. And then they created another tax to replace this Sugar Act, and this was called the Stamp Act. Now, the Stamp Act was a pain in the rear end. It's kind of like saying, I have my notebook, I have to put a stamp on it, and then I have to pay tax. It's my notebook, I paid for the paper, but now I have to pay for the tax too. And the stamp was kind of annoying. They put it on almost everything imaginable, probably even on napkins. I know they put it on playing cards, they put it on like those little ad papers, newspapers, on legal documents, anything, they put it on everything. Now, why did the colonists detest these acts? Well, they only really didn't like them because of the fact that they didn't get any representation. Now, I'm going to stop at forced repeal of the Stamp Act because I want to make these videos a little shorter. And then if you want to keep going, you keep on going, part 2 and so on and so forth. I think I'm almost there, but why did the colonists detest these? Because they weren't getting any representation in England. The no taxation without representation, that's where this came from. And what did Grenville say? Well, he was trying to convince them that you are getting representation, but the colonists didn't buy it. They're like, dude, wake up. We haven't voted for anybody. We don't know who's on the thing. We really don't even have an idea what's going on. You guys are just doing this to screw us up. Now, because of this timing, I'm going to stop now, and then you click the next video, and it's going to start at forced repeal of the Stamp Act, where I will continue my questions. So yes, I hope this helps. Please leave comments, let me know if I missed anything, or if you want me to explain anything in more detail. That'd be very important, you know. Well, have a good night, or a good day, or have fun studying. See you next time.